Welcome, everyone, to the Penny Stamps Distinguished Speaker Series. I see we have a few people still in the back. I'm sure you can find, I think the sides have more seats at this point if you need direction. Today, we are pleased to present brand designer, chief creative officer of AKQA, and perhaps most importantly for those of us in the house, Stamps School alum, Rei Inamoto. You see, students, success awaits you out there. It's just ready for you to grab. One note, the last couple weeks I've failed to mention this big black hole right here, and why we have not had an organist the last couple weeks is because we do not currently have an organ. The Barton organ, the good news is it has been removed from the theater to be completely renovated. I actually visited it with it about a month ago, and it's been completely torn apart, and it's being all put back together, and it should be back up and running with an organist playing it sometime in the month of October. Yeah. Until then, you know, every week we've had various things going on in the sound system, and today Rolling Stones was played specifically because when Ray showed up, I asked him what he thought his signature music or song was, and he thought about it and he said, Rolling Stones. Apparently, it was the first concert as a teenager in Japan he got to go see was the Rolling Stones when he was a young lad. So, Ray's signature music for you today. I want to thank our partners for their support of today's program, AIGA, the Professional Association for Designers, the Detroit chapter, and Michigan Radio 91.7 FM. Today's talk is the first in many that you'll see throughout this year with a design focus. Part of this is to champion the Stamp School's rollout of a new program. It's MDes, or Master of Design program in integrative design specifically. They're now accepting applications for fall 2015, so that's the big news from the Stamp School. Couple of event tips for you that I just wanted to point out because there's so much going on, of course. But this week also happens to be Detroit Design Festival Week. And if you want to go downtown tonight, it is Eastern Market after dark. They've got historic tours behind the scenes, and all the creative businesses, studios, creative design studios, music studios, galleries, etc., are open and giving folks behind the scenes tours. So that's tonight, and the festival continues through Sunday, so you should check it out. Then Friday and Saturday, do not miss D-Electricity. This is the Nuit Blanche for Detroit, or its Festival of Light, happening Friday and Saturday with sort of 35 renowned world-known artists putting up their light displays along the Woodward corridor from the DIA to Orchestra Hall, including Stamp School faculty. Osman Khan and Heidi Kumau are featured artists. Yeah, that's delectricity.org. You can get the map, you can get the schedule. They've got everything's free. They've got artist talks and performances. You could join. They are going to have a light bike parade on Saturday night. You can join too. D-Electricity, check it out. And tonight, following this, there is an exhibition opening this evening at the Institute for Humanities called Soldiers' Stories from Iraq and Afghanistan. This is featuring the work of Jennifer Karate, who some of you may remember was in the Stamp series here 2 years ago. She was last year our WIT Artist in Residence. She produced the work, which is opening tonight at Institute for Humanities in collaboration with our Stamp School students. One of the images that she created is actually featuring one of the Stamp School students who is also a returning veteran from Iraq and Afghanistan. So that's at the Institute for Humanities on Thayer, just around the corner. That's tonight. You can catch the opening, and it'll be up for a while. And a companion exhibition is going to open in October at the Slusser at the Stamp School with the rest of all of Jennifer's work. So we will have a Q&A today. It is not going to be in the main theater. We're going back to our regular Q&A style as we did all last year. So following Ray's presentation here, if you want to meet him and ask him a couple questions, join us in the screening room, which is out the doors to the left, down the hallway to the right. You'll find yourself there. Next week, join us again Thursday for painter extraordinaire Fred Tomaselli. Please do turn off your cell phones. And now for a proper introduction of our guests, please welcome Stamp School Professor of Industrial Design, Jan Henrik Andersen.
It's an honor to introduce Rei Inamoto, but before I start the introduction, I gotta do something. I'm rebranding myself, and you'll understand why. I just took on a different identity. All right. Thank you. As I said, I was just rebranding myself. Rei Inamoto, as Christina said, he's from Tokyo. He spent his first years in Japan and Europe, and he got a degree. He got 2 degrees. It's one of the smart ones at LSNA in computer science and at Stamps. He has been named. This guy has become one of the big go-to guys when it comes to the secrecy of the cultural code and branding. He's the Chief Creative Officer at AKQA, which is a large agency, 1,500, 2,000, something like that, employees. He's the VP there, and they work with Audi, Google, Nike, Verizon, you name it. He has been named by famous magazines one of the most creative and innovative guys. He knows a lot about branding. When I think about branding, I think about a little cow. Being stamped, not by the stamp school, but stamped with something hot. And to me, it doesn't matter. When you say branding, that's the first thing that comes up in my mind. And it's an expression of this notion of identity and the expression of ownership. So right now, you know who owns me, you know? You'll figure that one out a little later. I feel a lot in common with Rei in many ways. One of the most noticeable things is that he likes to watch the ocean. So do I. So we share that brand. We share the code. We understand. We don't have to talk about it. We understand it. And I think that's what branding is about. It's about belonging to something. It's about secrets. He's going to tell you secrets. Here he is.
Thank you. Hello. Hello. Come on, you can do better than that.
Oh, yes, you can.
Right? One more time. Hello.
Hello!
That was awesome. How are you guys doing? Good? Everyone in the back, you can hear me all right? I don't think I ever had an introduction that had a mention of a cow. That's the first. This is a picture of me and a really good friend of mine, Asma. I was 18 in this photo. It was March of the year that I came to Ann Arbor. By the way, how many of you guys are students? All right. About half the house? More? So in this photo, I was a lot closer to your age than I am now. I'm a few years older than that. And I will show you an evolution of this photo, which, by the way, was a bit of an accident that we took this photo. Was that? So this was only a few months ago. It was only a few months ago. I was privileged to come back to Ann Arbor in April of this year to speak at the Stamps. The night before the speech, I got to have dinner with my good friend Asmat, who, by the way, is one of my best friends. I actually met him before I came to the University of Michigan. We went to an international high school in Switzerland, and he was my roommate in my senior year in this boarding school in Switzerland. And for the first 2 years at the University of Michigan, he was my roommate at the UM. And he is definitely one of the first American friends that I've had, and he's one of the best friends that I still have kept, after so many years. You can be the judge of who aged better. I'm not gonna ask that, right? Let me turn attention away to somebody who's much better looking than the two of us combined. Many of you recognize this character, right? Yeah? So this is Don Draper from Mad Men. The reason why I wanted to show this photo to preface the talk today on code is that although what I do is very different from what Don Draper's character does in Mad Men, what I do today is somewhat of an extension of what was happening at that time. For those of you who might not know, this is a show that takes place in the 1950s and 1960s in New York, which is considered to be the birth of modern advertising. And it's the time of so-called the creative revolution in the marketing and advertising world. I'll then turn our attention away from this good-looking guy to this man. You may not recognize him. His name is Bill Bernbach. He is considered to be the father of modern advertising. He was one of the founders of Doyle and Bernbach, an ad agency, which is now called DDB, one of the most successful advertising agencies in the world. Back in 1959, he and his colleagues at DDB had a client, Volkswagen. The 50s is only 15 years after the World War ended, and selling a German car in the United States was a very, very difficult task for obvious reasons, right? In addition to that, advertising up until that point, it was a very information-driven medium, meaning that companies tried to sell products, whether it was a car or a shoe or juice or whatever that might be. The way they tried to sell a product was to bombard you with information. The reason why this man, Bill Bernbach, became so influential, he and his colleagues at DDB became so influential, was that they drastically simplify the messaging approach from the one that was driven by information to the one that was driven by emotion, right? So as you see on the right, it's a poster that is very, very simple. 70% of the poster is blank. You see a small product, and then you see a very clever tagline, think small, and a little bit of copy underneath. And it was that kind of reduction of information, the art of reduction, that he and his colleagues pioneered. And if you look up Volkswagen 1960s advertising, you see similar types of advertising executions that followed that school of thought, the art of reduction. The other thing that he pioneered was this approach of art and copy. those of you who might be familiar with advertising, the way a lot of advertising creatives work is that we get partnered with the other person. Usually, if you're an art director, you partner with a copywriter. If you're a copywriter, you partner with an art director. And Bill Bernbach was the first person to pioneer that kind of approach. The only problem that I personally have with that approach is that it's an approach that was created 50, 60 years ago. And we live in a world that's drastically different from what it used to be back in the 1960s. We live in a world where every one of us, by the way, who has smartphones in this room? Pretty much everybody, right? Yeah. The technology, the piece of technology that we have in our pocket is more powerful than a computer that didn't even fit into a room back then, right? So what we have in the palm of our hand is much more powerful than what a huge room can accommodate 50, 60 years ago. So the reason why I titled this talk on code is that from the industry that I work in, which is the marketing and advertising industry, to the way we live, there's a drastic change that's happened between 1950s and 1960s, or even 10, 15 years ago, when I was at the U of M, we didn't have mobile phones, we didn't even have laptops. I remember having to line up at the library, either on Central Campus or in the school. We had to get a ticket, and then you wait for 20 minutes, even an hour or so, to get your turn at the library computer lab. The other thing that I also wanted to mention here is that the beginning of my career, which, by the way, wasn't really designed. When I came to the University of Michigan, I didn't know what the fuck I wanted to do. I had no idea, right? I came to the U of M wanting to be an artist, but I had no idea what implication that would have professionally after I graduated from the University of Michigan. But the very reason why I'm able to stand here today is because of the things that I learned and the things that I decided to pursue at the University of Michigan 20 years ago. As Christina said, I decided to, in addition to the fine arts program that I was enrolled in, I decided to pursue a degree in computer science, both of which were very difficult for me just because I had to spend many hours in the studio during the day and then many hours in the computer lab at night. So really the career that I have, I owe it to the University of Michigan. Whew! Thank you. What I am going to share in the next 30, 40 minutes or so is what is uncode? How do you make uncode? And why do you do uncode? And then the lessons that I learned along the way. Make sense? Sounds good? These are just a few quick screenshots of the types of work that we've done at AKQA in the last 5 years or so. Some of these things you might recognize, some of these things you might not recognize. I'm sure you recognize the clients that we work with. This was something called the Nike Training Club. It's essentially an app for smartphones, whether it's iPhone or Android. And it's an app to basically train yourself at the pace that you would like to do. And the premise of this was, hey, how can you create the biggest training gym in the world? That was the question that we were asking. If you try to create a physical gym, A, there are physical limitations, and B, it's going to be very, very expensive. So then the answer that we came up with was, hey, what if the training gym was on the mobile phone in your pocket? This has been downloaded over 15 million times, and I think it's been #1 in about 34 different countries around the world. So virtually, this has become the biggest training gym in the world. It's a very simple app. You choose either beginner, intermediate, advanced, and it gives you either a 15-minute workout, 30-minute workout, 45-minute workout. And then on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, there are new training programs that get fed into this app, so you don't get bored with the same training schemes. Another thing that we've done in the last couple of years or so, this is AudiUSA.com. It's actually a scary piece of work because what browser do you use? What browser do you use? So he says Safari. He uses Safari, right? Based on the browser that you use, if you come to AudiUSA.com, we can tell you before you know what car you're going to like. Yeah, it's scary, but it's still legal. It's still legal. It's not illegal. So what we are able to do now with the kind of technology, and some of these things are visible, some of these things are invisible, is that based on, say, the browser type of your computer, right, we're able to tell you where you live, yeah, whether you are men or women, roughly speaking, the household income, geography, and all those kind of data points that we can accumulate. And by creating an algorithm that cross-references those data points with more than 60 to 70% accuracy, we can guess what car you're going to like before you know it. So for instance, if you are in Michigan, and if you use IE, Internet Explorer, right, and you think that you're interested in R8, which is the fastest car that Audi has, but really, the car that you're going to buy is Q5. Things like that. So that's why I say it's a scary piece of work. This type of, this is just a screenshot from the car configurator within the website. And what we are able to do, again, by combining art and code, this is rendered real time. When you go to the site, you pick a car, and then you click on different options, whether it's the wheel, the body, and whatnot. It renders the car in 3D real time, and it feeds it back to the screen so that the car that you're seeing is as realistic as possible. Another recent piece of work, maybe about a year and a half ago, that was done for Worldwide Fund, WWF, an app called Together. And back 5-10 years ago, companies and organizations like WWF, the way they would try to spread a message is that they would create an advertising campaign, a print campaign, or commercial to create a message and spread it, but that's no longer effective. This was an app, again, and it was an educational app mainly for teenagers and students to learn about the indigenous species. This was also downloaded more than 10 million times. Yeah, 10 times would be pretty sad, right? 10 million times, and was chosen as one of the 3 best apps from Apple in 2013. Another piece of work this was actually for 2 different clients. It was for Nike and Xbox at the same time. This was about a year and a half ago, called Nike Plus Kinect Training. And what it is Kinect is this gaming console with the camera that basically captures your movement. And based on that, what we were able to do was to create a training game that turns your living room into a gym, right? So what it does is that whatever motion that you make in front of the camera and in front of the TV, it shows how much you're working out, and it can also detect the heat temperature of your body to understand which part of the body that you're working out the most. More recent piece of work, this was the end of last year, beginning of this year, was done for Verizon. And this is a relatively new thing that's starting to happen in the retail space, in the shopping experiences and whatnot, which is using digital technology as a way to enhance your shopping experience. So this was done for the Mall of America in Minneapolis, which is the biggest mall in the United States. Verizon has taken over about 20,000 square feet of the retail space at that mall, and about 80% of the wall surface is now digital, so that instead of those products that are tethered to the walls and paper brochures and whatnot, now you can get real-time information and content about the products and what those products enable. So again, using technology in an artistic way to enhance the end user experience. Another thing that has nothing to do with any of our clients, but has everything to do with what we do, what I'm interested in, and something that we are quite passionate about, which is the education of the next generation talent. It's a program called Future Lions. It's a program that we started about 10 years ago in conjunction with this very, very prestigious festival called the Cannes Lions International Festival of Creativity. And it takes place every year in June in France. And what we do with them is that we created this competition called Future Lions. It's only open to students. It doesn't matter what category or what degree you're pursuing. You could be an art student, you could be a design student, you could be a science student, it doesn't matter. The brief that we give to students around the world is that, hey, pick whatever brand that you're interested in. It could be Nike, it could be Xbox, it could be Coca-Cola, it could be a grocery store down the street. Any company, any brand that you like, come up with an idea for that organization, an idea that wasn't possible 5 years ago, and go. We give students about 8 weeks to brainstorm, come up with those ideas, turn those ideas into, it doesn't have to be a real thing, it could be just a concept, but give us a presentation virtually, mostly either through PDFs or movies that they send us. And from many, many entries, so we've been doing this for now 9 years. 2015 will be the 10th year. The first year we did it 10 years ago, we only got about 30 entries only from the United States. Now, 10 years on, this year we got about 1,700 participants from over 40 different countries. No entries from University of Michigan. Next year, I'm looking forward to it, right? And then from those 1,700 entries, we choose 5 best entries. And what we do is that not only do we present those 5 ideas from those 5 student teams, they get to fly to the south of France. They get to be on stage at the festival. And then before they finish that festival in June, pretty much every single one of them has jobs. Not a bad deal, right? So these were just quick snippets of different pieces of work that we've done around the world. And what I thought I would do, since I'm here in person, I would share some of these pieces of work a bit more in depth, even show things that I usually don't show to the public audience. I'll show you the process, how our own code happens, the process of how these pieces of work come to life. Sounds good? Any Halo gamers in the house? Anybody? No? Yes? Come on. So Halo, for those of you who might not be familiar with it, it's the most popular gaming franchise that Xbox has. It's been around for not quite 10 years, about 7 or 8 years or so. In a very sort of simplistic way, you become one of the players, one of the characters that you see here, and the planet Earth is being invaded, and you basically shoot the aliens, as many of them as possible. That's kind of the grossly simplified version of the game. And there are many different versions of this Halo franchise. There was Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo 3. We've worked on all of those versions of the campaigns for those game launches. And this was a few years ago, about 2 or 3 years ago, for a game, the Halo game called Halo Reach. The premise of this game was that the word Reach is a planet, a different planet outside of the Earth, and that's where human beings immigrated after the Earth was kind of destroyed. But this planet also was getting attacked by the Covenant, which are the aliens that were trying to conquer the human race. These 5 soldiers that you see are the superheroes that were selected specifically by the government to become the super team to protect Planet Reach. That's the background of the game. In the professional marketing, design, creative services industry, whether it's marketing industry that I work in, or an industrial design industry that Jan may work in, or other types of creative industry where you are selling your creative service as a profession, the way it begins is that the client comes to you with a certain type of request, right? In the marketing world, they usually have a product, and they want to sell as many of that product as possible. The challenge that you get into selling a product like this, and at the end of the day, it is the business world. If the client is not selling the products that they create, and if they are not getting profit from the product they sell, then they're not going to survive. So we have this big responsibility to make and help our clients become successful. However, one of the challenges is that it's not uncommon, it's actually quite common for all the clients to want to have 20 different things that they want to say and 20 different things that they want to sell. And Halo Reach wasn't an exception in that kind of request. So they came to us and said, hey, you know what, Halo Reach has the superior graphics, better than any other games out there, and better than any of the previous Halo games out there. Best-selling game ever. Halo is, and by the way, those cheesy transitions, that's on purpose, by the way, right? And quite literally, the client meeting becomes a cheese factory like that. It's just like a lot of information. Half of it is bullshit, to be honest, but I didn't say that. But anyway, a lot of these types of random requests, and rightfully so, the client feels very passionate about these things because either the people that we're talking to or the team on the client side, they may have spent 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, couple of years to come up with these products. So it is the culmination of their blood and sweat and tears. So they feel very strongly about a lot of these types of things, and they have a lot of trouble. Again, I just wanted to do that kind of fire flame transition in Keynote. This is the only transition that this is the only time that I've used that kind of cheese transition. But anyway. And when you have all these, and this is, by the way, kind of a simplified version of probably 10 pages of this type of information that we are often given, right? And as you can see, when you have this many things and this many effects going on, you don't really know what to look at and what to focus on. The question, again, the request that came from the client was simply this, and it's whether it's video games or shoes or soda or whatever. At the end of the day, as long as you work as a marketing service professional, your remit is to help clients sell more stuff so that they become more successful. How do you sell more video games? And we struggle with this because when you try to sell stuff, sometimes, and to be honest, a lot of times, you're selling stuff that people don't really need. I mean, who the hell needs a fucking video game, right? So, and then you don't want to lie to people to sell stuff that they don't need. And this is where the Bill Bernbach philosophy becomes relevant, where you saw the poster of Volkswagen Beetle from the 60s, where it wasn't so much about, hey, 17 different features of this Beetle that you should fall in love with, but just one thing that's very important to you and something that is so unique to this product. So what we decided to do was to shift this somewhat superficial question, how do you sell more video games, to something a little bit more philosophical and something a little bit more poetic, so that there is this emotional resonance that we can create between people who may and may not like Halo and the product itself. So the question that we revised from that previous one, the second was, how do you honor these heroes? So as I showed earlier, there are these 5 fighters that are featured in this version of Halo Reach, and then how do you celebrate and how do you recognize the backstory of Halo Reach in a poetic and artistic way in order to create an emotional connection. And speaking of heroes, just to kind of completely shift the tone a little bit, when you look at heroes, whether you think he's heroic or not is a separate conversation. But the point is, over time in human history, we human beings, whether you are from Europe, the States, or Asia, we've always celebrated heroes in different ways, right? The ones who led the troops, the ones who sacrificed their lives and whatnot. So that was one thing that we kind of latched onto and say, hey, these characters that you saw earlier, those 5 fighters, they sacrificed their lives to save Planet Reach. How can you celebrate in that way? So that was one part of the equation. Now, shifting back and shifting away completely from Halo, I'd like you guys to meet Kuka. Does anybody know who Kuka is? No, right? This is Kuka. Kuka is a robot. So these orange robots that you see, it's an industrial robot. And what Kuka does is that it's this gigantic arm to create cars and machines and whatnot. And it's actually quite fascinating watching how this machine works, because although it's an industrial machine, the way it moves is quite organic and animal-like. When we were at a studio it was a production studio that we were working with at the time, before we worked on Halo, completely different project. One of the studio managers of that company said to us, hey, we have this gigantic robot that we use to shoot things. So what they would do is that they would attach a camera at the end of the robotic arm, right, the camera, and then they can manipulate and move around this robot to shoot a product in a way that a human beings cannot do, right? So they use that robot to do these amazing moves of the camera to create a video. And this production manager told us what you can do is not only can you shoot a product like that, what you can do is that you can attach, as you see at the end of the arm, you can attach a light source, and you do a time lapse of the light and the movement of the arm to create an imaginary 3-dimensional figure. Make sense? Right? So these dots and the lines that you see were created by the movement of that robotic arm, and then having a camera that shot the time lapse of this arm, creating a 3-dimensional virtual figure in space. Right? A real eye wouldn't be able to see, obviously. It's only when you shoot and film over time that you see this image, a 3-dimensional image, emerge in space virtually. So what the fuck does that have to do with Halo? Stick with me, I'll bring you back, right? Stick with me. So then, okay, there's this video game. These are heroes. And then over time, in history, people tend to recognize these heroes and commemorate these heroes. And then there's this robot who can point lights. So then the idea that we sold to the client was, let's create a monument of light to honor these heroes that are powered by every single user in the world of Halo. Make sense? Kind of? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show a video that shows how this came to real life as a campaign to help sell Halo Reach.
It's one of the most beloved and storied franchises in video game history. And in its final chapter, the story takes players back to where it all began. Halo Reach tells the story of Noble Team, 5 super soldiers who sacrificed everything to save humanity. Our effort to remember these fallen heroes and the planet where they made their final stand. To do this, we created a monument. But in keeping with the Halo universe, set hundreds of years in the future, our monument wasn't made of marble or stone. It was made of light. To build this futuristic tribute, we used a 15-foot industrial robot with pinpoint accuracy. On RememberReach.com, fans could use Facebook Connect and choose an unlit coordinate within the monument. Then, in real time, they could watch the robot move to that coordinate and create a unique point of light tagged with their name and photo. We also took a snapshot of each light being made and posted it to that user's wall, marking their place in Halo history. The robot's movements were broadcast via live feed, and each time it moved, someone somewhere in the world had just contributed to the memory of Noble. As more and more added their contributions, the monument was revealed. The response was astounding. The campaign was hailed for its innovative use of technology in sources like Wired Magazine and Gizmodo. The monument to Noble was not only a testament to the heroes of Planet Reach, but the fans around the world who joined together to pay homage to the most influential franchise in video game history.
You can clap. Thank you. So that's the kind of thing that I do when it comes to art and code. And then to bring it back to the business side of things, we were lucky to have this Halo Reach become the most successful product launch for Xbox. So the lesson that we learned, and I personally learned from this experience, was this: reframe the question. A lot of times, whether it's a school assignment or a professional assignment, there's a request, there's a question that comes from the other side. And it's often important to reframe the question to give a different perspective to find something that hasn't been done before. So reframe the question is lesson number 1. Second piece of work is something that's a little bit more recent. Another example of what I call art and code. This is Kobe Bryant, obviously one of the most celebrated basketball players of our time. And this summer, so it's only a couple of months ago that we did this, what we did was we created a tour of these celebrity basketball players, and specifically it was Kobe and LeBron James, who went to China to spread, A, the love of basketball, but more importantly, B, to give the kind of training and coaching that the Chinese young basketball players wanted to have for so many years, but they couldn't have. And what we did with this event that we held in Beijing this year was that we created something called the House of Mamba. And it's this full-size, fully interactive basketball court that gives you different training drills as well as monitor your movement so that you can become a better basketball player. So again, I'll show a quick video because it's really in motion that you understand how amazing this kind of experience is.
This summer, we launched a national basketball campaign in China called Rise, a national search for the most passionate ballers for a chance to achieve their dreams. Once drafted, they were trained for 1 week by Kobe Bryant in an environment mirroring the attributes of the Black Mamba himself. Unforgiving, entertaining, and pioneering. Welcome to the House of Mamba, the first full-size LED reactive basketball court that taught the key fundamentals of the Mamba mentality, and like Kobe, pushes the boundaries of sport. The court utilized motion tracking and reactive LED visualization to guide and challenge players through the 4 drills based around Kobe's game. Each drill used reactive sensors, instructional graphics, and artificial intelligence to intuitively react to the player, making each drill individual. And Kobe being Kobe, he likes to mix it up. The court has the ability to quickly and seamlessly transform into various training scenarios. With its program and reactive capacities, we can drill instantly. Throughout the week, the LED court challenged the players and entertained the crowds. The power of the court and thousands who were there shared the experience. Millions around the world took notice. 12 grassroots basketballers going through to continue their dream. One superstar who didn't believe it was possible.
My first experience on LED floor, it's pretty, I didn't even know it was possible. It's amazing what can be done nowadays, and I think the potential and the possibilities for the floor are endless.
This project, we started working on it probably in February, March of this year, and the event took place in China in August. What was difficult about this project was that pretty much every week we had a challenge to solve. And every week we didn't know if it was going to happen or not, because a lot of the things that we were trying to do were so new that hadn't been done before, and we had to find a way to make it work. The thing is, you can't pursue brilliance and comfort at the same time. If you want to kind of chill out and relax and have it easy, that's not going to get you a good piece of work. On the other hand, when you're working on something, and if it makes you nervous, it's not a bad sign. It's actually a good thing. If your idea doesn't make you sweat, you aren't doing it right, was the lesson that we learned from this one. All right, one last piece. You guys recognize these guys? Yeah, Coldplay. So we had the privilege to work with Coldplay on behalf of YouTube, actually. YouTube, as you know, if you go to YouTube, there's a lot of crap, right? There's a lot of cat videos and dogs on skateboard and babies eating spaghetti and all those kind of things. That could be fun and cute to watch, but let's face it, like 98% of it is crap. And I mean this with respect, YouTube. At the same time, though, there is actually a lot of great content on YouTube that people can watch and enjoy, music being one of them. So the business challenge that YouTube gave us as a client was help us change the perception of YouTube from basically a dumpster of this crap, I probably should have said it a little nicer, to a destination, a platform of great content. Not an easy challenge to do. So what we then went back to the client to propose was an interactive music video featuring Coldplay. Actually, initially when we proposed the idea, we used, hey, let's work with Adele. But the client said, we love the idea, but we actually already have something going with Coldplay, so can you shift the idea with Coldplay? So we said, you know what, we can try that. Well, what I'm going to show you, which hasn't been seen in public, and don't tell anybody that I show this, is a presentation video that we created to show to the client to sell the idea. I think one of the ironies of a professional creative services industry is that you spend a lot of time in meetings and you spend a lot of time presenting your ideas, which I didn't realize when I was at the University of Michigan. And it's something that I had to learn on my own in the last 15, 18 years that I've been working in the industry. But the reality of the business professional creative services industry is that you spend a lot of time presenting over and over and over. Sometimes more than 5 times. One time I counted 17 times that we gave the same presentation to different groups within the same client, right? The bigger the client, yeah, your budget might get bigger, but the pain of presenting so many times also gets bigger. So it's, be careful what you wish for. So what I like to show is, again, something that I'm probably not allowed to show, but what the hell. Oh, by the way, so I forgot to mention about this. The core of the idea was what we call the artists of YouTube. They're not necessarily professional musicians like Coldplay. They are amateur, passionate musicians who are creating their own songs, who are creating their own performances, and some of them have a lot of their own followers, right? So we've contacted about 300 of these YouTube artists and created this music video. So I'll show you the before and the after of the actual thing.
As an additional part of the campaign, we also want to create an online experience that allows people to view and listen to the song in a totally unique way. The experience will feature different artists helping to build the song as it's played. It will begin with Chris Martin singing the song in a pop-up window in the middle of your browser.
When you try your best but you don't succeed.
As the individual artists add their own voices and instruments, they will each pop up in different windows, perfectly harmonizing with everyone on screen.
Lights will guide you home.
At any point, you'll be able to interact with the track. Using a palette, people will be able to isolate specific instruments, such as all the vocal covers uploaded to YouTube. You will also be able to record and upload your own part of the song, so that other people can mix you and your talent into their versions. The track and the experience will continue to grow as the world sings and plays along, giving everyone else the opportunity to create totally new and personal renditions of the track. A track performed by Coldplay, by the artists of YouTube, and of course, by you.
It wasn't even the real thing. So I'll show you the next thing. So this was the real thing, right? When you went to youtube.com/Coldplay, you had this interactive experience where you can pick these different tracks, right? Each track being an artist of YouTube, all of them amateurs, have uploaded their own rendition of a song, of a Coldplay song. And then we created this interface where if each one of you went to the site, you could completely customize the same song in your own way. And on top of that, you could actually record your version of the song and upload it as well. So every version of the same song was different, right? So that's what you did. And then this is how it looked when you play the music video. So hopefully you see what was before the actual thing, which was that demo video that I showed, and what became the real thing. So we spent probably about, 4 or 5 months or so presenting, again, this idea to many different people at YouTube, including Coldplay themselves a couple times. And about a month before this was to launch in the world, one of our creative directors, this was done in our San Francisco office, the creative director who was leading this project came to New York to meet with Coldplay themselves directly in the dressing room of the Colbert Report, right? So they had a 15-minute window. The manager said, you have 15 minutes to talk to Coldplay, sell your final product to Coldplay, and it will launch it. So he came just to have a 15-minute meeting with Coldplay. And Coldplay is like, oh, that's pretty cool. That was about it. He goes back, yeah, and we put finishing touches to the work that you just saw. And here's a crazy thing. 5 days before we were ready to launch, we get a phone call from the manager of Coldplay. It was like at 7:30, 8 p.m. on one day. And he goes, the band's not feeling it. So we're like, excuse me? Put mute. What the fuck? Unmute. Come again. The band's not quite feeling it. So what does that mean? I don't think we can launch it. Excuse me? Never launched. So you've never seen this before, and it will never be seen in the world. But here's a lesson. Here's a lesson, right? Is this. Is this. The point is, the team who worked on it, the designers, the copywriters, the musicians, you had so many people work on it. The execution seems kind of simple, but what went into it was a very, very complicated piece of work. There was a lot of technology behind it to make it as seamless as possible so that the interface was easy, contacting these 300 artists of YouTube. And the team was obviously devastated, 6 months, 7 months of sweat and tears that they put in. But at the end of the day, even if your work doesn't launch, we get to work in an amazing industry, working with amazing people, working with amazing groups of companies and talents and whatnot. So it's not that bad. So never lose optimism is the lesson. So just in the last few minutes, I just wanted to close to share a few more things. So the lesson, reframe the question. Lesson 2, if your idea doesn't make you sweat, you aren't doing it right. And 3, never lose optimism. Just to come back to this, I asked Asma to come here today, but I'm not sure. Asma, are you here? Or maybe not. He said that he may have to pick up his daughter, so I'm not sure. I'm sure picking up a daughter is much more important than seeing me here, so I am not offended. So I want to do an experiment. This might fail spectacularly, but anybody and everybody who's got a smartphone, could you please take it out and turn it on? Which is quite counterintuitive of the ask that came at the beginning of the... So you can turn it on. And what I thought I would do, so turn it on, your cell phones, right? And hold it up, please, if you can. And this is actually a quite amazing view. It's like a constellation of, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a picture of this, right? All right? Keep it up, keep it up. All right, so let me. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tweet it from here. Hold on. I'm just picking a filter. Of course, you have to have a filter, right? All right, this vignette filter. And I'm going to say, stars are shining at the Michigan Theater. Right? And I'm going to tweet it. So let's see. I don't know how good the connection. Come on, Verizon, help me out. So anyway, it might take a little while for the photo to upload. So if you check out my feed, it might come up. So why did I do this? Why did I do this? I think it's amazing that from the palm of your hand, that you can potentially reach 1,000 people, 10,000 people, 1,000,000 people, and potentially 1,000,000,000 people. That was something that wasn't possible when I was at the University of Michigan. And that wasn't something, that wasn't possible even 5, 6, 7 years ago. But with a very, very simple gesture that I just did, which is to take a picture, including all of you guys, right? And just hit tweet. And if you see that image, and if you retweet it, it could go around planet Earth a few times. I have a few friends. You guys have a lot of friends. And then a lot more friends than I do. And their friends and whatnot, right? If you tag that photo, if you comment on that photo, it becomes your photo as much as it is my photo. And then to me, that's the possibility of on-code, right? And the possibility, I would just end on this one note, is limitless. I think the limit is as much as you put on yourself. If you think you can do this much, that's the limit. If you think you can do that much, that's the limit. Even though this is a confined space, it's sort of the universe that we can reach from here. And to me, that's the possibility of on-code, which is limitless. Thank you. Thank you.